There are no such things as coincidences. They do not exist. Everything happens for a reason. So, with that in mind, it was no coincidence when a few years ago, during the pandemic, when everyone had extra time to sit at home and do research and look different things up, I was into the whole, trying to figure out the the original intent for the scriptures. Okay, I was into trying to learn Hebrew so that I could look up the original meanings of some of these passages of scripture that had been translated through a number of different tongues and finally arriving at English, and to look at some of those passages of scriptures and think to myself, and y'all know I'm a writer, that doesn't seem to make sense. Anyway, during that journey, I was looking at different documentaries on Israel and Jerusalem. And it was no coincidence that one of the recommended videos that came up in the suggested videos section of the search results of Amazon Prime Video was this little 47-minute documentary titled The Search for the Real Mount Sinai. Now, you have to imagine that the title grabbed my attention because the first thing that came to my mind was, you mean wherever they're saying Mount Sinai is right now isn't the real Mount Sinai? Why would someone be looking for another Mount Sinai? And so, because the title grabbed my attention, I proceeded to watch that film. And I have to tell you that the film was fascinating. In fact, I watched it again in the lead up to doing this video as a part of my research. So, if you guys get time and you have an Amazon Prime Video, I would recommend that you check out that video, The Search for the Real Mount Sinai. For those of you that are into the Bible, that are into Bible history, because Bible history to me is world history. It's just not labeled as such. And those of you who are into archaeology, that is a fascinating 47 minutes. It will be worth your time. With that said, fast forward to 2023, and there's a channel, you guys have heard me mention it in some of my videos for my returning subscribers. There's a channel that I like to watch on YouTube called Relaxing Walker. And this is a person, a guy who lives in Israel. He goes through different places throughout the country, and he's just walking with his camera and letting you enjoy the sights and sounds of the cities and nature and some of these different archaeological places. And there's another channel I like to watch if you guys haven't seen it, Sergio and Rhoda in Israel. They do some great work. I like to watch their videos as well. Anyway, so I'm watching Relaxing Walker the other day. And guys, I know this is a long introduction, but I want to set you up. I'm watching Relaxing Walker the other day. And maybe not the other day, I want to say that, maybe a couple of weeks ago. Today is Monday, July the 3rd, 2023. And maybe it was 2-3 weeks ago, I don't know. But I'm watching Relaxing Walker. And after that video finished, you're looking at the other videos down underneath. I use Apple TV when I'm watching YouTube at home. And you're looking at some of the other recommended videos underneath that. And I see the Sikh, or Sikh, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, SIQ, which is a narrow pass in Jordan that leads to the ancient city of Petra or whatever. So I was like, cool, I like rock formations and stuff. And I like walking videos where people are doing walking tours. Let me check this out. And I watched that video, and it really turned a light bulb on for me for a passage of scripture that I read some years ago. And in like fashion as the two men that produced the Search for the Real Mount Sinai video, I saw something that said maybe these modern geopolitical lines don't add up with what's in Scripture. So on this upcoming edition of Maddie's Rap, I'm going to take you guys through what I saw in that video, and I'm going to share a passage of Scripture with you that is going to beg the question: is the modern day land of Israel, does the modern day land of Israel match the borders of ancient Israel? Coming up on this edition of Maddie's Rap. Stick around. Hello and welcome back to another edition of Maddie's Rap with author Matt D. Talford. Now, if you saw that introduction, I want you guys to know that the sources for today's video, the information sources for today's video, are but two. The first source is the Scriptures, the book of Judith, okay? Now, for the benefit of those of you who did not or have not heard me read the book of Judith, you can find the link to it in the description box below. The book of Judith is one of the apocryphal books. Apocrypha means hidden, hence the name or the title of today's video. Now, and I think there's a number of reasons why the book of Judith was hidden. Perhaps what I'm going to get into today is one of them. Now, the least of which, though, is not the fact that the hero in the story, the combatant hero in the story, is a female. A fine one at that, all right? Read the scripture for yourself, y'all. It can be found in the book of Judith. And if you do not see it in your 66 book canon, that was done for a reason. You'll have to get a copy of the Apocrypha. You can order a print copy from Amazon or your favorite Christian bookstore, or you can actually download the Bible app, KJVA, which stands for King James Version with Apocrypha, and it'll have the Apocrypha in it. That app is available on the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store, and it's absolutely free. Now, I'm going to read a passage of scripture from the book of Judith, and it'll be relevant to today's video. Probably will maybe read another scripture. Maybe there's two passages from the book of Judith that are going to explain what you're going to be looking at on the screen here in just a minute. And more importantly, why I believe that the modern borders, things drawn on a map by some people that aren't even from there, why the modern borders of Israel do not match the ancient lands, okay? So, I want to begin by showing you guys, oh, by the way, if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. And if you are new to the channel, welcome. I hope that you get enlightened by today's video. I know that I did. I was enlightened by the subject matter. And I told you guys, maybe, I don't even remember now, to be honest, if I told you in the introduction, but I might be a little redundant if I did in explaining to you how I came about stumbling across this information. But again, there are no coincidences. No, the things don't just happen. They happen for a reason. So let me begin by showing you, and this, is sort of along the lines of what the gentleman who did the video, Search for the Real Mount Sinai, saw. I'm going to show you guys where they found Mount Sinai, where it is if you look it up on Google Maps versus where they found it to be. And of course, these men were blessed, first and foremost. I mean, they were blessed. They had a lot of fortune all along their way. And if you want my opinion, that was nothing but the hand of God that allowed these men to complete the mission that they started out on, which was to find the location of the mountain where Moses received the 10 Commandments. Okay. And excellent video. You guys check it out. It's only about 47 minutes long. So the first image that you see on the screen here is what you will find if you open up a Maps app on your phone, your tablet, or you go to a website, Google Earth. Again, that is one of the sources I used for today's video, and type in Mount Sinai, Egypt. Mount Sinai, Egypt. Okay? It is going to take you to a mountain that sits in the center of the Sinai Peninsula at the south, the south center of the Sinai Peninsula. And I have it circled here on the screen. Now, that, according to the gentleman in the documentary, is not the location of Mount Sinai, which is what the locals call the Mountain of Moses, the locals being the Bedouin that live in that area of where it's located. This image is the location of Mount Sinai. And as you can see, it is further east. And in the local maps or whatever, it is called Jebel al-Lawz. Now, Jebel al-Musa, we know that Musa is Arabic, I guess, for Moses, and Jebel is mountain. Well, over here, across the street, as we say in New York, across the street or across the water is another mountain called Jebel al-Lawz. I don't know what laws mean. Assuming it means the laws of, like, the laws he received, the Ten Commandments. I'm guessing. Somebody who's familiar with Arabic, you can leave it in the comments or whatever. But I circled it for you here, and that is the location of Mount Sinai. As you can see, it is not in Egypt. It is in Saudi Arabia. So, let me take you now to a passage of scripture from the book of Judith. And again, if you guys want to read it, it's in the Apocrypha. If you prefer audiobooks, I'll leave a link in the description box to part 1 and part 2 of the book of Judith. Basically, I read it. I did an audiobook version with a little bit of commentary in between chapters or whatever. But I basically read the whole book across 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. And you can click those links if you want to listen to them. If you're on a drive or you're at home or whatever, doing whatever, and you don't want to stop to read, you can listen to me read it to you. Okay, now, so I'm going to go to the book of Judith right now, and I'm going to read the passage of scripture that when I saw the video of someone walking through the sick in Petra, Jordan, like I was looking up Petra because I wanted to see the Roman-looking structure that was carved into the side of the mountain. Like, I'm like, oh, cool, what's in there? I was looking that up, and once you see a recommended video, you see this, and I've heard about it. I've heard about, okay, they got this. You see the pictures of it all the time. I'm into archaeology, y'all. I love looking at ancient ruins and stuff like that. I always have, and so in looking at that, you find these other videos of this narrow passageway that you have to walk through to get to it. And this passageway is about 3/4 of a mile in length. Okay. 1 point something kilometers if you're into the metric. But, over here in America, we still use the old English. So we go mile versus kilometer. It's about 3/4 of a mile. Now, I'm just going to read to you basically verses 1 through 7 of Judith chapter 4. And again, this is redundant if you guys have read it, but you can read along with me if you like. Now the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, as it's spelled here, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples and brought them to naught. So just to give you guys an idea of the backdrop, I'm going to pause there. Nebuchadnezzar was about to go to war. Nebuchadnezzar, being the king of Babylon, was about to go to war with another nation that wanted to try him. So he called all of the lands that were in his kingdom or in his empire, and he called out to all of these different nations that I guess he was friendly to. He's like, look, I'm not bothering you guys. I don't bother you. I could come and conquer you if I wanted to, but I'm not doing that. But I got this guy that's coming at me, and I want you to send some soldiers from your land to help me fight this guy. And all of these nations were like, nah, man, you ran your mouth. That's your dude. You look, you brought that smoke on yourself. You deal with it. We ain't sending none of our people to fight and die for you. Peace. And so that pissed Nebuchadnezzar off. And he's like, all right, look, we'll in the words of former President George Bush Jr., we'll go it alone. Anyway, that was a bad impersonation, y'all. Don't score me on that. Anyway, he's like, we'll go it alone. And he went, and sure enough, he defeated that other king that was coming at him. So what he did after that was he said, now all of y'all that didn't send any soldiers to me, I'm coming for y'all next. So he started going through all of the land, and everybody he knocked on their door, sent his people to knock on their door and said, send us some soldiers. And they said no. He went in and just spoiled them. He slaughtered, took what he wanted, took their women for his own wives, gave them to his captains or whatever. Look, y'all keep whatever women y'all want. Y'all kill all the men, kill all the children, whatever. Keep the women you want, keep whatever spoils you can find, they're yours. This is your land now, since they didn't listen. And so this is where this picks up. So I just read verse 1. I'll read it again. Now the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Holofernes, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyrians, had done to the nations, and after what manner he had spoiled all their temples, and brought them to naught. Verse 2, therefore they were exceedingly afraid of him, and were troubled for Jerusalem, and for the temple of the Lord their God. For they were newly returned from the captivity. The children of Israel had just gotten back from the Babylonian captivity, so they had just been servant to or subject to Nebuchadnezzar. They were released. They just went back home, and now here's this guy calling for people, and they didn't. Israel was one of the ones that didn't send anybody either. They were like, we ain't sending nobody either. I'm gonna say this. Y'all know how we do. First question out of somebody's mouth, out of the elders' mouths, probably was, well, who else sent people over there? Oh, they ain't sending none? What about them? They ain't sending none? They ain't sending? Well, shoot, I ain't sending none either. Then we ain't sending none of our people. Write them and tell them we ain't sending nobody either. They ain't sending none. We ain't sending none. Well, we look like sending soldiers that dying. Ain't none of these other people did it. Y'all know how we do. Anyway, so they had just gotten back out of that Babylonian captivity, and now, they're like, dang, man, we done made this dude mad. So anyway, verse 3 rather, for they were newly returned from the captivity, and all the people of Judea were lately gathered together, and the vessels and the altar and the house were sanctified after the profanation. I guess they were profaned after they left, and they had to come in there and clean the temple, basically sanctify it, do whatever they needed to do to cleanse the energy. For those of y'all that think that this stuff is new age. Anyway, verse 4, therefore they sent into all the coasts of Samaria and the villages, and to Bethoron and Belman and Jericho, and to Choba and Esorah, and to the valley of Salem, and possessed themselves beforehand. So this was, before this happened, and possessed themselves beforehand of all the tops of the high mountains, and fortified the villages that were in them, and laid up victuals or food for the provision of war. For their fields were of late reaped. When it says of late, it means it just, it just happened not too long ago. Verse 6, also Joachim the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in Bethulia and Betomestum, which is over against Esdraelon, toward the open country near Dothaim. Now, I have no idea where these places are, but I'm assuming they're somewhere in the south and toward the east, okay, of modern Israel. Now, verse 7, charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, for by them there was an entrance into Judea, and it was easy to stop them that would come up, because the passage was straight, for 2 men at the most. Now, when it says straight here, it means narrow. So it's saying that the passage was narrow in places for 2 men at the most. So meaning there were places in that passage where no more than 2 men standing side by side could go through at the same time. So it was very easy to defend the high country of Judea, because to get to it, they had to go through this narrow pass. Okay, so that was the passage of scripture that was the first one that made me say, when I saw this video that I'm about to show you right now. Okay. So now you saw there this narrow passage that is today called the Sikh. Now, interestingly enough, it is not in Israel, it is in Jordan. Now, I'm going to show you some images on the screen, but only after I read this next passage of scripture that is relevant to today's video. This one, we're staying in the book of Judith, and this one we're going to skip over 3 chapters over to chapter 7. Okay? Now, and I'm going to begin at verse 1. The next day, Holofernes commanded all his army and all his people which were come to take his part, that they should remove their camp against Bethulia, to take aforehand the ascents of the hill country, or the approaches rather, how to get up into the hill country, and to make war against the children of Israel. Then their strong men removed their camps in that day, and the army of the men of war was 170,000 footmen and 12,000 horsemen, beside the baggage, and other men that were afoot among them, a very great multitude. Can you imagine seeing 170,000 warriors on foot and then another 12,000 on horseback? That's the cavalry. They ride hard and knock over everybody, and then come the footmen. That must have been a sight to see. Verse 3, and they camped in the valley near unto Bethulia by the fountain. Y'all remember that? By the fountain. And they spread themselves in breadth over Dothaim, even to Belmaim, and in length from Bethulia unto Cinnamon, which is over against Esdraelon. Now the children of Israel, when they saw that multitude of them, were greatly troubled, and said every one to his neighbor, now these men will lick up the face of the earth, for neither the high mountains, nor the valleys, nor the hills are able to bear their weight. All right, and let me skip down to I'll keep going. Verse 5, then every man took up his weapons of war, and when they had kindled fires upon their towers, they remained and watched all that night. Verse 6, but in the second day Holofernes brought forth all his horsemen in the sight of the children of Israel, which were in Bethulia, and viewed the passages up to the city, and came to the fountains of their waters, and took them, and set garrisons of men of war over them, and he himself removed toward his people. I'm gonna skip down to verse 12, where he says, remain in thy camp, and keep all the men of thine army, and let thy servants get into their hands the fountain of water, which issueth forth of the foot of the mountain. For all the inhabitants of Bethulia have their water thence, or that's where they go to get water. And so shall thirst kill them, and they shall give up their city, and we and our people shall go up to the tops of the mountains that are near, and will camp upon them to watch that none go out of the city. All right, so I'm going to stop there. That was Judith chapter 7. And now, again, my position after seeing the video of the Sikh, the narrow passageway, that is, looking at the location of it on Google Earth, which I'm going to share those images on the screen for you here momentarily, and reading this passage of scripture and understanding the topography that was explained in this passage of scripture, and matching it to what appears on Google Earth, and seeing that it's actually not in Israel, it's in Jordan. Now, on the screen here, so you guys saw the video, you saw the narrow passage, okay, where if you look at if you look up the Sikh in Wikipedia, you can see that in some places it is only about 6 feet apart, 6 feet in width. I mean, that's not that big. That's not either it's 6 feet or 3 meters. I can't remember, but that is not a lot of space. You're not moving an army through that space like that. I mean, in the modern day military terms, that's called a choke point. Okay, you try to go through there, you basically are giving up your army. It's a turkey shoot. Okay, it's like shooting fish in a bucket. So you don't do that. And they understood that that was a narrow passageway. So what they did was they said, okay, well, there's this fountain that they got to come down out of their city, down into this valley to get water. We'll position our army. We'll take command of that fountain and put our army in between the fountain and them. They're going to have to give up that city or they're going to die of thirst. Now, that area of the world is very hot. Okay, I don't need to say that. That is very hot. It's close to the equator, and there is a lot of desert there. Okay, now let's pull these images up on the screen. So I showed you guys the image of where they say Mount Sinai is on Google Maps, Google Earth, whatever, and where the real Mount Sinai is. I showed it to you, Jebel al-Lawz. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you here this next image. I'm just going to show you the path of the children of Israel through the desert from the foot of Mount Sinai, and how I believe they made it up to the Valley of Moses, or Wadi Musa as it's called. Look here on the screen. You can see where I circled on the map the area of Mount Sinai. Now let me give that to you expanded. There is on the screen Jebel al-Lawz, and you can see the topography there. You see this dark area, and then you see this light area where you see the you can see in the expanded view, you've got some dark area there, dark sand, whatever, and then you got this mountain. Y'all, pardon me. Okay, so I circled it for you guys, zoomed out with you can see I wrote it there, a little inscription, Mount Sinai in this area. But then you take that arrow and you follow it up, and there is Wadi Musa. Now, I'm going to show you where Wadi Musa is, and just some images I took that are relative to where they were located, okay? Here, blown out, I've circled Wadi Musa and Tomb of Aaron there. So Tomb of Aaron is not very far from the Valley of Moses. It would be through what would be the Sikh today, okay, and out through. Now, there's a little township there. I'm going to show you guys that. I know I'm jumping around, guys. Just bear with me here. There's a little township there where you can see everything, and that is, I think they call that the treasury in modern day, the modern times or whatever. Yeah, y'all bear with me because I've never been there. I'm just using what I have here on Google Maps. But you got Wadi Musa, which is the mountain. Which is the Valley of Moses, and I've got a circle there. If you go west, you go through some high country. You can see the mountains. And there's this place called the Tomb of High Priest Aaron, which was Moses' brother, okay? So that is quite a considerable distance on foot away. It's probably probably considerable distance via helicopter, too. I mean, I wouldn't know how long it would take to fly there. But as you can see, it's pretty far away. You're not walking there in a day, okay? So there you have it. Now, what I've done is I've circled there's an expanded view so that you can see the path that the children of Israel, took to Jerusalem and all these other places, and how far they were from Jerusalem, which, whoever Joachim was, the high priest or whatever, where the temple was, they needed to let them know, hey, you guys have to defend this pass in here, because if you don't, once they get through here, they're basically going to get up into the high country, and it'll be no time before they're in Jerusalem with a force that size, okay? So, now, here's where it gets interesting. You have here Wadi Musa on the screen. As you can see, that is the Valley of Moses. On the other side is Musa's spring, Musa, Moses. That is the spring where I believe they went to get water. Now, west of Wadi Musa is, you got the modern day Petra Museum, which probably wasn't there then. But then you can see this path. You've got Al-Sikh. It's a curving, winding path. You go Al-Sikh, which is the passageway. I'll have to put on the screen what Al-Sikh means. I don't remember it right offhand, but I'll put it on the screen what it means. Something like the pass or something like, I don't know. I'll put it on the screen. And then from that, you've got the treasury, and then the Nabatean theater. So they give this ancient group of people called the Nabateans credit for this area. But this area to me perfectly matches. It is a city. You can see here that it was a city, and to me, it perfectly matches the description of the book of Judith here, as you can see. And again, he told them, hey, send some forces up in the tops of the high mountains nearby so we can see if they're trying to escape or whatever like that. So, guys, the point I'm making is none of this is modern Israel. It is in what would be called today Jordan, okay? So you look at that, you can go from Moose's Spring. Why did I put this here? Well, because if you look at the valley there, that valley would accommodate a force the size of 170,000 footmen and 12,000 horsemen, and then however many support people they had there as well. That valley can hold an army. So if you're in the high country on the other side of the Sikh, and you know the cliffs, those cliffs, that again, that is where you would station soldiers to basically drop rocks down or arrows or throw spears down or darts or whatever, sling rocks on whatever, anybody trying to come through that pass, and you just pick them off one by one. Like they couldn't even push that force through there because it's a choke point. So I think that this book of Judah is referencing or set in this very area right here. Now, why is that important? It is important because if you look at the modern day lines, Israel is only about 263 miles from north to south. From north to south, Israel is 263 miles. And at its widest point from east to west, it's only 71 miles. Now, there, in my opinion, is no way that these modern lines, these modern borders, are what the borders in the Bible was. Now, I'm going to give you another image here on the screen of where these people would have been coming from, these people from Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. Okay, as you can see here, I've got the lines. This is the one I showed you earlier. The circle for the Mount Sinai and the arrow saying Mount Sinai is in this area, and then the arrow going north to the Valley of Moses. If you look east of that, you can see the word Jordan there. You see all of these other townships named. Well, I'm going to show you another image. As you can see here, this is a map image that shows you the modern, as they call it, Middle East or whatever, if you will. I don't like that term per se, but anyway, it is what it is. You've got east of Israel is modern Jordan, and then east of modern Jordan to the northeast is what? Iraq. Iraq is where ancient Babylon was. So it makes sense that they would have been driving west to go and pursue or go after Israel for not giving them soldiers. Now, the book of Judith also specifies it seems to differentiate between Israel and Judea or Judah, because it mentions that in the 4th chapter. Let's go back. Okay. For verse 3, he says, "For they were newly returned from the captivity, and all the people of Judea were lately gathered together," meaning they had just not long gotten back together. Okay. So, now here's what's interesting. I always talk about vibrations and the vibrations of words. When you listen to the word, or you hear the word Judea and Judean meaning of Judea, of Judah, Judean of Judah, or of Judea, Jordan and Judean sound very close. So, we don't hear an ancient country named Jordan, okay? We knew about the kingdom of Babylon because it extended and covered most of that area over there, okay? We knew about Arabia because that is mentioned in the scripture, and in particular, the antiquities, okay? The antiquities is, I mean, guys, you can look at that as scripture. You can find the antiquities of the Jews in the complete works of Flavius Josephus, okay? So that to me is just as much scripture as is the Bible. In fact, I like the antiquities because it goes into a lot more detail. It has the same Bible stories, but it goes into a lot more deep detail. So when you look at that, there was no ancient Jordan, but there was an ancient Judah. There was an ancient Judea. So when you say Judean and Jordan, those sound a lot alike. When you look at this on the map, when you look east of what I have here on the map, which is modern Jordan and modern Israel, when you look east of that, you see the country of Iraq. Iraq was ancient Babylon. It was the ancient kingdom of Babylon. So all of these places were connected, and I personally believe that the ancient kingdoms of Israel and Judah probably entailed modern day Israel and Jordan, and perhaps even some portions of Saudi Arabia. So, you guys, it's right there on the screen. You can look at it. It's right there for you. Now, how we got to where these geopolitical lines are today, I mean, y'all know the story. Berlin Conference, we know how they chopped up Africa. I'm not sure when the borders for the so-called Middle East were drawn. I'm assuming it was somewhere in that time as well. But there's a passage of scripture that prophesied these modern borders, and I'm going to read that to you right now. It comes from the book of Joel, chapter 3. Okay, we'll go right to verse 2. Joel chapter 3, verse 2. Okay, let's start at verse 1. Joel chapter 3, verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. He's going to call back the captives of Judah and Jerusalem, which was in Israel, whatever. Now, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land, and parted my land, and parted my land. That's how you got these modern borders. Y'all understand something? In the ancient times, nations were parted, if you will, by natural geological things. Either mountains, huge valleys, large bodies of water, deserts, huge forests. This is how peoples were separated. If you wanted to get to another nation, you usually had to basically cross through or cross over some natural barrier. A natural barrier, not something that somebody drew on a map, okay, and assigned GPS coordinates to, or assigned latitude and longitudinal lines to. So, as I get ready to wrap this video up, I just wanted to make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover. Israel today, basically, I mean, if you want to follow the latitude and longitude lines east to the United States, just for those of you who've never been to the country, I'm one of them, at the time of this video. Anyway, Israel's northernmost town, which is Metula, is pretty much in the same, roughly speaking, location as Summerville, South Carolina. I want to give you an idea. So Israel's northernmost town is Metula. Its southernmost town is Eilat. Metula sits on the 33rd parallel, the 33rd line of 33 degrees north, I guess it is. I don't know. I don't know if there's 33. I'm thinking that's 33 degrees north of the equator. Yeah, it's 33 degrees north. So Metula sits on the latitude line of 33 degrees north. That is the northernmost town in Israel. If you trace that 33rd parallel all the way across to the west and stopped somewhere in the eastern United States, it would put you in the area of Summerville, South Carolina. Now, in the south of Israel, Eilat is the southernmost town, and it is on the 29th parallel. So if you follow that latitude line, 29 degrees, all the way west to the United States, you're going to end up around the area of St. Augustine, Florida. So if you want to get an idea of how long it would take to get from this northernmost town of Israel to the southernmost town, picture driving from Summerville, South Carolina to St. Augustine, Florida. That's about how far it is. And then the width of it, again, 71 miles, that's nothing. That's nothing. That's nothing, family. That's nothing. That I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, drive time wise, what that would be in the United States. But y'all, wherever you live, just picture 71 miles from one place to another. 71 miles east of you or 71 miles west of you, of your location, and that's how wide Israel is. So, to me, with a nation that was that big, when I say that big, I'm talking about people-wise. They didn't have skyscrapers back then. You didn't have people living 80 stories up in no high-rise apartment building or nothing like that. For the numbers of people that lived in Israel back then, they had to be spread out. So there's no way these people all, and then with all of the desert there too, which I don't believe it's always been desert. I believe there's times when it was probably not desert, but some of the areas or whatever. But with all of those people, there is no way that it was just where it is today, 71 miles wide by 263 miles long. 263 miles long by 71 miles wide. There's no way. So, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I personally, I found it fascinating. Again, to me, it is something along the lines of the discovery that the two men made that did the video, The Search for the Real Mount Sinai. I wasn't looking for where the setting of this ancient battle that is accounted in the book of Judith was. I wasn't looking for it. It just so happened, and I said in the beginning, there's no such thing as a coincidence. It just so happens that I see a video. I'm looking at videos of Petra because I dig the archaeology, and I see the Sikh, and I'm looking at how narrow it is, and it rings a bell of me reading the book of Judith and reading about this battle and reading about this narrow pass that the Babylonians had to get through to get up into the Judean high country to get the people that were in this town where they came out of the hills, the mountains, to go and draw water from this spring that sat on the other side of Wadi Musa, or the Valley of Moses. It matches. The topography matches. The you know, and people get thrown off when they hear things like Nabatean, but they think, okay, well, these weren't the ancient Israelites. These were the Nabateans. Y'all, I tell you all the time in a lot of my videos, family, you have to use the eye test. What do your eyes tell you? Cover your ears sometimes, block out the noise, and just observe. When you observe and you quietly observe, things come into revelation. I told y'all also after this summer solstice, which was about a week ago, roughly about a week or so ago, that things were going to start coming more and more into view, and more things that have been hidden are going to be revealed. I said that. It is happening, family. It is happening. All of the lies that have basically hampered humanity for hundreds of years, and a specific people, I'm not going to get into that. I talked about that in another video, have hampered a specific people in particular. These lies are now they're falling away right and left. The light is now shining as the power of the sun intensifies. It is also not only making the earth hotter, it is shining light into dark places. And when I'm talking dark places, I'm not just talking physical places. I'm talking about stories and narratives that have been kept in the dark. They're now coming to the light. Jordan and Judean sound a lot alike, okay? This army sent from Babylon to the east of Jordan is Iraq. Iraq is the land of ancient Babylon. Those men raised that army and they attacked from the east westward to make sure that they got the children of Judah out of there, okay? I read Judah, Jordan, Judean, Jordan, okay? Judean, Jordanian. They play with words, y'all. They play with words. So, now, if you're from Jordan, this was not meant to offend you. You in that land, whatever. Listen, you in that land, that's your geopolitical. You're Jordanian, as far as I'm concerned. What's on your birth certificate? I don't care. I ain't here to argue with nobody and tell them who they are and who they ain't, okay? That ain't what I do. I'm just here looking at what is in Scripture, what is in Google Maps, and lining them up. And they line up, okay? Ain't no army coming through that Sikh to hit that town that's on the other side. You got the entrance to the Sikh on the other side. On the one end, you got the Valley of Moses. On the other side of that pass, you start getting up into the entrance into the ancient town or the ancient city that is referred to in the book of Judith. So, not only do I believe the book of Judith is one of the hidden books because a woman is the hero and a woman took down a whole army by herself. Let's call it what it is. Judith took down that whole army by herself, basically. I mean, what she did to take out their leader basically led to the fall of that whole army. That whole army got routed off the strength of what a woman did, a courageous woman who did something the men were afraid to do. Okay? So, with this highly patriarchal Christian Roman Catholicized system of religion that likes to make women not on equal standing with a man. Now, of course, a woman's not on equal standing with a man physically. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking equal and opposite. A man is not on even par with a woman spiritually. The spiritual gifts are way stronger in a woman. The physical gifts are way stronger in a man. So therefore, we're equal and balanced. Yin, yang energy. One's the sun, one's the moon. Balance, okay? Now, the sun is the revealer of things that we see. The moon is the revealer of secrets and emotions, okay? That I don't want to get into that, y'all, because some of y'all that's too much for. Anyway, not only was the book of Judith hidden, in my opinion, because of the narrative that a woman basically won that battle and was celebrated for many generations after her transitioning to her next life, okay? But the book of Judith reveals also that the ancient land of Israel was much larger to the east than what we see on the map today. And that's a problem if you're into geopolitics. That's a problem because people drew lines and said, hey, this is my half and this is your half or whatever. But we know how, I just explained to y'all how the Most High divides people. The Most High divides people by natural barriers, not by things drawn on some map, okay? By man. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the images on the screen. Again, check out that video. The search for the real Mount Sinai is fascinating. The images that I had on the screen, you guys feel free to screenshot them, keep them, whatever you want to do. It shows you the path that the Israelites took from the Mountain of Moses, as it's called there, or the Mountain of the Laws, as it's called there, northward into what is modern day Jordan and on over into what is modern day Israel, across the high country and over toward the coast. God gave the Israelites all of that land, not some narrow strip that is 263 miles north to south and 71 miles east to west. All right. I know that's a problem for some, but you know, it is what it is, man. Just say, you know, in a lot of these things, you know, you would have more respect for somebody that says, you know what? Yeah, that might have been what it was, but we're the conquerors. We took it over and we chopped it up this way, and this is how it's going to be. You'd be like, yo, respect, dude. Respect. Respect. You holding all the chips. You holding all the swords. Respect. You know? But, I mean, don't cap, as they say in the street. And for those of y'all that don't understand modern slang, cap, what do you do with a cap? You cover something, right? So a cap covers the truth. You're lying when you capping, all right? Anyway, that's all I got, family. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel and you like this type of information, you like this type, y'all, I don't ever know what's coming through me. I tell y'all all the time, this stuff doesn't come from me. It comes through me. I learn from it too. I'm fascinated by the things that come through me. So, if y'all want to be on a surprise bus with me and be like, okay, what's coming out of the kitchen next? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. And turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified when I create new content. I'm an award-winning author, family. You can check out links to what I've written in the description box below, where you can also read brief synopses of all 3 of my books. And last but not least, and that is the best way to support me. People ask all the time, Matt, how can we support your channel? How can we support your work? I do have a buy me a cup of coffee link in the bottom of the description box. And that's cool. I think, though I've had people buy me cups of coffee, I thank you guys so much. Another way to support the channel where you actually get something from me is to purchase a book. I promise you the books that I've written are going to change your life. They're going to change your life in one way, shape, or form, okay? If nothing more, they're going to entertain you. And we can all use some good, honest, clean entertainment every now and then, all right? So I'll end this video like I end them all, family. I'll tell you guys that I love you. I do. You guys know I love you. You're the reason why I keep going. because some of these algorithms make you want to quit sometimes. I'm just gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it 100. But I thank God for His Spirit encouraging me and saying, Matthew, stop looking at the view numbers, because who needs to see these videos sees them. And all you got to do is plant seeds. All you got to do. One seed can yield hundreds of fruits or vegetables. One seed, okay? So I thank you guys for your encouragement. Those of you who encourage me offline that I talk to, those of you, my friends, that say, Matt, keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't let those view numbers discourage you. Some of those view numbers aren't even real. Keep going. So I thank you guys. You guys are the reason why I keep going. I love you guys so much. It is difficult to deliver content like this, because it is one of those things where you're doing something that ain't quote unquote mainstream. Okay. You're not, I could do some of the videos, and I'm not talking about anybody. I don't knock how any man eats as long as he's not hurting anybody. But I could do some of that other stuff and be just like everybody else. But family, I don't believe I was created to be just like everybody else. And that message is for somebody out there listening. Somebody out there, you know deep within yourself that you too were not created to be like everybody else. So let this message serve as your inspiration to be you and to stand up in it. Stand up in it. For you to be you, God put something special in you. He put something special in you, and now it is time for you to tap into it. Okay? A lot of revelations happening right now. Be a part of that. Be a part of that by revealing to the world who you are. Tap into your inner power. Tap into it. You're special. Somebody watching this video, you are special. Don't be afraid to tap into it, and don't let outside forces discourage you. Y'all keep me going. I'm here to keep y'all going too. I love y'all, family. Tell somebody you love them and mean it. How do you mean it? You have to show it. Love is a verb. It is a noun as well, but when we focus on the verb, the noun takes care of itself, okay? Show love, give love, and love will abound, and there will be love. Peace, family.